Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very, very special episode of Various Fields. My name is Hazen Fields II, and I'm going to tell you that honestly, I have a difficult time saying my name without hearing my two sons respond. I'm Trey and I'm Lex. So, boys, you know I miss you so much and I love you so much. But this is the first time we ever did a Various Fields without the guys here. But we are not without family. We are surrounded by greatness in this special episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the New Heritage Theater Group, 229 West 135th Street in the heart of Harlem. We are surrounded by so many great people. We have Mr. Jamal Joseph, and we have John Remy Monet here. And of course, Nels came on down and he's filming, but I can't wait to introduce you to someone who has been so impactful in my life, is Miss Aduke Aramu. When we talk and we say the word queen nowadays, we kind of use it as an honor thing, but I promise you, Aduke Aramu is Black royalty in the flesh. We love her. She's been a mentor and a teacher, took me all over. And then her mentor is here. Aduke, why don't you tell us a little about who we are seeing here today?
Thank you so much for inviting me today to talk to your guests. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do this interview, but I didn't want to do it without Vosa Rivers here. Only because as a female playwright, producer, director, and Renaissance girl, I didn't think it was fitting to not have one of my most important mentors sitting next to me. Because as a female producer, growing up in New York City, as you know, I was born in Harlem, New York, and then lived most of my life in Brooklyn, New York. You can't make this journey and become a legend or become extremely polished in your field without having mentors. And Vosa Rivers, not only was he my mentor, and I met him at a very young age in New York City at the New Heritage Theater with Roger Furman on 125th Street, when I had just graduated from college with a degree in theater and wanted to conquer the world. And I bumped into Roger Furman and Vosa Rivers, and they took me under their wing. Vosa Rivers has been whispering in my ear for decades. Whenever there has been a trip like Festac where we went to Nigeria or we were putting up a new production, I knew that Vosa was always someone I could speak to about the goals, aspirations, the obstacles. So it is my greatest honor to be sitting at his office on 135th Street in Harlem. This is the king of Harlem, of theater, of producing, of Broadway, of international events. Vosa Rivers.
Let's put our hands together. Come on, Vosa Rivers. Wow, what a wonderful introduction. Please say more, sir.
Well, I don't know if I have to say more with that introduction. She's hit all the milestones. But let me just say how pleased I am and to welcome all of your viewers and the staff that you have here today. This is a very, very important moment for all of us. You're in the home of New Heritage Theater Group. We're the oldest Black not-for-profit theater in New York State. And we don't take that lightly. We stand on the shoulders of the American Negro Theater that was founded in 1940. Roger Furman was a member of the American Negro Theater with Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and others. And I got a chance to meet Roger at a lecture I did back in 1964. I went to a lecture and he was speaking. And I wasn't interested in theater. I was trying to get myself together to be able to articulate what I observed around what was happening around the country. discrimination, the school sit-ins, the bus boycotts, the killing of the four little girls. All of those things were percolating in my mind. And I just said, you know what, I need to go to a public speaking class. So if somebody walked up to me and said, Vosa, what do you think about this? I wanted to be succinct. I wanted to be on point. So I went to a public speaking class. And that day, Roger Furman was the guest speaker. And I got a chance to listen. And at the end of his lecture, he mentioned that when he was a teenager, that he was a member of the American Negro Theater. And that he was going to start his own theater company based on the model of the American Negro Theater. I said, oh, that's really great. But he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to everybody in the room. And he said, and I'm interested in anyone who wants to join the theater and raise their hands and I'll put you into this new theater company. And I was the only one who didn't raise their hand. Because I knew nothing about theater. I had never seen a show on Broadway. That wasn't what I was about. I was thinking that it would be good to be in the community, involved, but not in theater. I didn't have that artistic drive to be in the theater. So Roger comes to me and says, what about you, young man? And I told him what I just shared with you. And he said, you know, let me tell you something. You know what year this is? I said, yeah, it's 1964. He said, you know anything about the award that was just given to Harry Belafonte? I said, no. He said, well, he just won the most prestigious award by a black person in film this year, 1964. And I said, oh. And he said, did you know that Sidney came to New York with a 6th grade education?
Wow.
That he wasn't able to read well and that he was a stutterer?
Wow.
And he joined and he wanted to be an actor and he came to the American Negro Theater and he was turned away 3 times because he couldn't read the script.
Wow.
And one of the actors, Gertrude Jeanette, pulled him to the side and said, I used to stutter also. And now I'm here in this theater company and there was a little trick that I learned that I want to share with you. And that trick was that as a stutterer, if you got a bottle of wine and take off the label and put the corkscrew in your mouth and let's have a conversation. And that was something that a number of the actors went through. But then when I thought about how Sidney speaks, I could see now how. So he told me that. I was excited to be on the receiving end of that kind of information because I had never heard anything like that before.
Wow.
And so Roger said, I'm not going to pressure you, but if you're interested, I said, no. What I want to do now that you told me about Sidney, I want to volunteer.
Wow. Fantastic.
I could volunteer.
Wow.
He accepted that. And for 6 years, I was a volunteer with Roger Furman. And the exposure that he gave me in those 6 years just prepared me for other things. So I was the box office person. I was the maintenance person. When you came, I was a greeter in the theater. I took your tickets and set you and put you to. That was the kind of things that I was doing, and I was happy. 6 years later, he says, "Man, you got some other skills. I want you to be on the business side, so I can concentrate on the creative side." And then we did that. And that began my relationship with understanding all of the principles of theater, the kind of commitments you have to make. But most importantly, what the American Negro Theater wanted to do is to create quality theater in the community, by the community, and for the community. And with that is what he wanted to do. And in 1983, Roger got sick. He died, and the board of directors asked me to step up. And I said, I can't do that. This guy is a genius in theater. He's a playwright. He's a lecturer at colleges, and he knows theater. I don't know theater like Roger. And I said no. The next morning I received a call. It was from Ruby D. And she said, Voz, I understand that you agreed to become the new director of the theater.
That's amazing.
I said, no, Ruby, I did not say yes. She said, no, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I understood.
Yes, there you go.
Exactly what she was saying.
Yes.
And she said, Ozzy and I will be with you every step of the way.
Wow.
But Roger saw something in you. And he wasn't an easy person to get along with because he was brilliant at what he did. But he saw something in you, and you're the perfect person to carry on his legacy. And I'm here today,
my God.
61 years.
Woo! Listen, this is so rich. There's so much here. My friend Jean-Remy Monet just gave me a quote that applies right here. Listening to how you moved in your humility. Those people who are in theater, a lot of people just want to jump to the top. But sometimes the way you got to get to the top, you got to climb. And my friend said to me this quote. He said, if the mountain was smooth, you wouldn't be able to climb it.
Exactly.
So I love that thought. And so therefore, and I would like to talk to you even all the more, but I'm giving you guys a teaser of Mr. Voza Rivers, because we are going to come back and we're going to get more of it, because he's been saying something that's very interesting today. He's been using the term black theater. Why is that interesting? Because there was a time when we were left out of what was considered over. Now we don't hear it as much as we anymore, because it was people like Voza and Aduke that pushed through to saying that it is theater all around. But now we understand it because it wasn't easy, And my mouth wants to say, talk about the struggles, but I'm going to make y'all wait to the next episode of Various Fields, because we're speaking to the king, but we got to speak to my queen as well. And is that fair?
Of course.
All right. Y'all okay with that? Y'all all right with that? Can we come on back? Mr. Well, thank you, sir. If you have any more last words, and we're gonna cut this section right here. We're gonna come back with the queen.
Listen, I'm just looking forward to part 2. I can't wait. But thank you guys for having me with you this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Voza Rivers here on a very special episode of Fields on, I don't even know what we're calling it. We're on the fields here. We're out here at this wonderful new Heritage Foundation, and this is wonderful, and we are going to ask you to come back again. We'll be right back after a little bit, and we'll be speaking to Miss Aduke Aramu. Thank you, Voza.
Thank you.
We are back as promised. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, let's hear the energy in the room here once again. Yeah. Woo! We are here with so many friends. I mentioned before, we got from home, the boys are not here. We get Lexington and Trey. You are missing it. Now, I wish you were here, but we got Nels here, got Jean-Remy Monet. We have Jamal Joseph, and my brother right there, say name, Broderick. Roderick, I'm so sorry. And we have some friends in the back. We got TJ, and I'm going to introduce a little later on Pamela Johnson. That was a little sneak in there. And there's someone I've known for a long time. But all of these roads are under the roof of New Heritage Theater Group, 229 West 135th Street. Look them up, and there's a website, I'm sure, with Mr. Voza Rivers. They have under their umbrella the New Heritage Theater, the New Heritage Films, Furman Rep. This is an amazing place in the heart of Harlem. And I'm going to tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to introduce to you a woman who has single-handedly impacted my life. No joke, seriously. As a kid, growing up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, because of this woman's determination to bring black theater to kids in the early 70s, I've been to Africa. I've been to 4 countries in Europe. Barbados, I'm telling you, at Lincoln Center, it's just too much because of a young woman that decided that she wanted to do something. And I want to tell people who are watching, if you have something in your mind that you want to do, she is the example. Ladies and gentlemen of the Various Fields family, Various Fields fans, Miss Aduke Aramu.
Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you so much.
Wow.
It's good seeing you. You did well.
Thank you so much.
I'm really happy to be here in the Harlem home of the King Vosa Rivers of Black Theater, who has also mentored me throughout the years that I was putting my legacy together. And you asked me to start. Where does this start?
Well, before you start, I just want to let them know that part of the excitement in the room is that we are actually being filmed and filmed again because Aduke is actually having a documentary done. And we have a film crew doing this at the same time. So this is very exciting.
Yes.
So we're going to let Miss Aramu fly in a second. I just want to just ask her to tell us
what happened.
Your origin story, and how it'll bring it all together.
Okay. My family is from Savannah, Georgia. It's a very widely respected and very well-known family down in Savannah, Georgia. It goes back hundreds of years. My family was always about culture and heritage from my grandfather, who was Native American rancher, and he married an African woman out of the island of Jamaica. And he was very progressive at that time and very, from what I understand, a fiery personality. And he had 9 children. And my mom was the youngest. My mom married a military man, the Holmes family, which were also prestigiously connected historically. They were a family that produced multimillionaires. My grandfather was a millionaire, and he only had a 5th grade education down in Statesboro, and the rest of the brothers were ministers. So I think I came from good stock. I think that because of the Middle Passage, so many of us assume that we lost the royalty that we really had. And I don't think that we lost it. I think we just have to rediscover it. I think that we came through the Middle Passage, many of our ancestors, but we were of royalty, of royal blood. And this royalty carried over in terms of our determination, our passion, and our visions in the new world. And we did not speak English. I tell my college students when I teach speech and communications that English is a second language for us.
Wow.
So we need to understand that there's a dynamic that runs through our DNA that is not European, but it is of Africa. And if we can embrace that, we will discover our royalty. Well, getting back to this, so my dad, military man, brings his new cute little bride to Harlem to live because, as you know, at that time, the South was in Jim Crow and burning crosses. And my very arrogant family members were not having it. Most of my uncles had guns and they were prepared for this wild stuff going on in Georgia. But my father, coming out of the military, he said he couldn't tolerate the environment and he wanted his new bride and to be in New York City. So he came to Harlem. Which is where it all began, and settled in Harlem. And I was born at Harlem Hospital. So my father went on and he became very successful as a furrier in Harlem. My father became extremely economically endowed by selling fur coats to all the up and coming Harlem celebrities and the people that used to be at the wonderful community of Harlem at that time was thriving with clubs and parties. And my dad was involved. If I called his name, you would know him because he was there. Anyway, my mom and him gave birth to Aduke, and my name was Gwen. I tell everybody it was Gwen. And we stayed in Harlem for 3 years, at which point my parents separated. which was really interesting story. My father stayed building an empire in Harlem, but my mom, being a Savannah, Georgia princess, wanted to not be in that sort of city environment. So she moved her two little daughters to Brooklyn. Very friendly. She said, I'm out of here, being a Savannah, Georgia princess. So I grew up in Brooklyn. Hardcore. Brooklyn was hardcore. I remember being very shy. No one believes I was shy. I also had red hair, wherever that came from. And so they used to call me Blondie and chase me home from school because I guess I looked a little weird, you know, little skinny girl with this little red nappy hair. But I was interested for some reason in music. I played the flute like I was 6 when I took up the flute. And I was writing all the time. My mom said I used to sit in my little room and look out the window and write. And she didn't know what was wrong with me. She kept saying, you know, my oldest daughter is very interesting. She didn't know what to say. She is sitting, looking out the window, daydreaming, playing her little flute, writing her little stuff. And that's who I was as a child. I was very quiet, which no one believes to this day. No one believes. But I was interested in music and art in my childhood. And my mom, who was a very bright woman, began to take me to see plays. Like if you at City College, I think they were free. And I saw South Pacific, all the little plays. And I used to sit there at 6 and 7 saying, this is fascinating. I mean, I was really very in tune to this for whatever reason.
The seed was planted.
Yes, the seed was planted because my family traditionally were not interested in the arts. They were, Savannah, Georgia was kind of like you had to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor, one of those little people. One of my uncles was head of Savannah State University, but this whole art piece came through my DNA. So here I am listening to European musicals, okay, and playing the flute and classical music. My mom grew us up on classical music. I have no idea what that was all about, but I knew Beethoven better than any of the white kids in my school. I would be there, raise my little black hand and say, that's Beethoven, Fifth Symphony. And they would say, what's wrong with this little kid? I mean, she played it all day long. I think she might have been a bit traumatized being a little Savannah woman. So she's playing this classical music day and night. It's in my house. She also was playing blues, you know, and all the other little things. So this is how I grew up in the house. We couldn't go out because the Savannah, Georgia mom would not allow us to stay out after dark. She didn't let us play with everybody because she was very like, you know, I don't like what's going out here. Mom was really interesting little princess herself. So we were sort of isolated in this community in Brooklyn. And after high school, I went to Hunter College, and Hunter opened the door for me. I met 12 African-American students. We all came in as freshmen, and we were determined, since there were only 12 of us in the freshman class, that we were going to all graduate. So we created a clan. The clan consisted of excellence. We helped each other academically. We all, I pledged a sorority because that was part of the clan thing, so we can have parties to go to. But I was a little more aggressive. I have no idea where that came from. I used to go visit the president of Hunter College up at the top of the building because I wanted to know who had the power. I had this obsession with who really has the power here. I'm a little black girl. What's really going on here? There's 12 black people and the rest people are all Europeans or whatever. What's going on at this university? So I would go visit the president and sit with her. And she would let me in and say, well, what do you want? Well, first of all, how are you? What's going on? How does this college run? I became a journalist on the newspaper. And for something happened, this is why I say the DNA kicks in of our African royalty. I became very fascinated with the Pan-African movement in my sophomore year. So I wrote for the newspaper. So I invited Stokely Carmichael to the school to speak. which was unheard of.
Yes.
And the Madam President said, well, who's Stokely Carmichael? I said, well, somebody I think the whole body needs to hear.
Right.
So he came and spoke.
Wow.
And I wrote the article in the newspaper. And it was really interesting. Then I began to say, well, being into Pan-Africanism and reading Malcolm X's book and Fanon and everything, I said, okay, something's not right here. So I think maybe we need to have some more Black study courses, which there were none. So we did a sit-in, the 12 of us, and we locked the doors and sat outside, inside the building, and sang freedom songs. And we didn't know nothing about the Freedom March because we weren't allowed to go. Okay,
Right.
parents were like, no, you cannot go to Mississippi and run around, get your degree and go about your business.
Right.
And we were like, no, we have to have an impact too.
Right.
So the 12 of us sat inside Hunter eating pizza and drinking sodas, singing songs. And the president let us do it. She would come downstairs and say, isn't this adorable? Look at my 12 Black people. Oh my God, they're just singing and whatever, carrying on. Well, leave them alone because eventually they'll get up and go to class, but we did not.
Wow.
So this went on for 7 days.
Wow.
And she finally came down and said, okay, enough is enough. Okay, you made your statement. What do you want? So we had a list because, we were intellectuals, we were like bright. We said, we want the following. We want Black professors. We want Black art people and dances. And that's how John Henry Clark got on the faculty.
Wow.
And Dr. Pearl Primus came on, the anthropologist in dance. And I'm writing on the newspaper. And I was not a theater major. I was an English major. But the English European teacher gave me a C. And I was so disturbed coming from this whole Savannah, Georgia, little royalty. I was like, how do I get a C on a paper when I'm editor of a newspaper and I'm from a family of, I'm talking all kind of stuff. I'm from a family of really intellectuals. How do I get a C? Well, you don't understand what Shakespeare is saying. I said, well, who is Shakespeare? I said, what are you talking about? I'm not interested in this department.
Right.
And I stormed out. My 98 pounds stormed out. And went to the dean and said, I don't want to be an English major because she's not talking about anything I can relate to. I got a C, which is never possible in my life journey. So I'm trading to another major. So she pulls out the roster and says, well, what major do you want? I said, what do you have? So she goes down the list and she says, speech, communications, and theater. I said, that sounds about cool. I've looked at plays, I know music. Why don't I do that major? And she said, but you're one of our intellectual Black people. You should stay with, I said, I don't want to stay with the English department because I don't like the idea that I'm getting this C and whatever. So let me go somewhere where I feel warm and fuzzy because after all, there are only 12 of us.
No, Duke, I just want to jump in.
Yes, love.
Because I think some of our viewers, they need to understand the backdrop of the audaciousness of what you had to do at that time.
I was audacious.
Because at that time, this is at the backdrop of just the 60s. And where Black people that, just before us were not permitted.
Exactly.
The 60s, the door just cracked open a little bit.
Did.
So when you were in the 70s, and that was still a bold move to even speak up, and so to speak up and to speak out, and the dozen of you, we hear talk of another 12 that changed the world, but here's a 12 of you at Hunter College that are absolutely changing the society of Black people in that scope at Hunter College.
And we did not know what we were doing. That's part of the royalty of our DNA of being so driven with our ancestral spirit. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just doing it because we felt it should be done. And as a result of that, we got a Black Studies department, and John Henry Clark came in, and so did Dr. Pearl Primus, who changed my life. So now I'm in my junior year, and I'm in theater department, and I'm writing. And I was a poet. I wasn't a playwright. I was really a poet. I was published at a very early age. I was writing poetry through the Black Poets journals that were coming out of the United States, and I was getting published. And all of us were writing, but I was writing poetry. That's how, which led me into musical theater, because I'm really a lyrical playwright. And so I was writing poetry, and I wasn't interested in being an actor. It wasn't something I really wanted to be. I wanted to know how it ran. Well, what is really going on in theater? Who's running this? Who's backstage? I mean, who's the producers, the directors? Where's the budget? Where's the money? That was always how I was looking at it. I said, I want to know the real deal, because I looked at the budgets of the actors and I don't see suitable budgets here. I'm like really tripping. I don't see suitable salaries here. So I think I want to look on the other side. So I never took one acting class at Hunter, and I'm a theater major.
Right.
No acting classes. They kept saying, I said, I'm not interested in that. I'm a writer and I want to do the other side of the genre. And so that's how I became a theater major and graduated from Hunter with a triple major, speech communications, theater, and education. Because, Savannah, Georgia, people are like, you got to be a teacher because you're not going to make any money. And my grandmother said theater was a demonic profession.
Oh, dear.
I mean, we had all that stuff going on. And I'm saying, okay, Granny, okay, calm down. I'm going to be, so they're starting to pray for me because they don't know what I'm getting ready to jump into. And I'm into music with the musicians, and I'm into the theater. So Granny, who is Pentecostal, starts praying on her side, and I'm deep in this now. Okay, so I come out of Hunter, graduate out of Hunter, and before I graduate, I go up to the top floor again to the president and say, okay, all of the kids who come out of Italy are going to Italy. The Jewish kids are going to Israel. Everybody's going home. I want to go to Africa, and I need you to pay for it. I have suffered through 4 years here. This is a 90% European Anglo college, and it's been rough for us. I'm dramatic now. And I think Hunter should send me to Africa.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there on that little, just because we want you to come back to your listeners, because we got to do a little bit of commercial.
Yes.
We are talking to Aduke Aramu. And if you love what you're hearing, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit all the buttons. Do it again with me, Nels, because the boys are not here. Like, share, subscribe, and hit all the buttons. And we also come to www.variousfields.com, where you can come and check out all the different things. Fellas, I miss you. I wish you were here. But we are getting so much, and we're so very happy to have Jean-Remy Bonet here and all the people in here listening to. So we're at the cusp. We're at where Mr. Aduke Aramu has opened the door, and we're seeing what she's going to do at Hunter. Does she go to Africa? How does she get? Well, let's continue on. Aduke, you take it. Go ahead.
Okay. So Madam President of Hunter College thought I was a Mad Hatter. And she just kind of looked at me. But Hunter College had one thing going, which is why I selected them. They had a roster of millionaire women who had graduated from Hunter because it was previously an all-women's school. So she went in her little book and said, let me find at least 4 women who live in that whole 68th Street Park Avenue area, which is very wealthy, Manhattan, and find you some sponsors. And she did the next day. I went back up and she said, you can go to Africa. Where do you want to go? I said, this is it. Now, there's a guy who I haven't met, Dr. Al Oliver. I don't know if Jamal Joseph heard of him. Al Oliver was very big in New York. He was taking groups over to West Africa with the UN. So I said, I'm going to go with Dr. Al Oliver, who I had never met, by the way. But as long as you're paying for my airfare, my room and board, my food, and I need spending money because I'm a Hunter girl. So if I'm going to West Africa, I have to go in a certain style.
Of course.
So they gave me a budget and said I had carte blanche airfare, carte blanche room and board. And she asked me how long. I said, I'm going to be gone for 3 months because I need to be immersed in my culture. I want to study African theater. I want to hear the music in these countries. I need to be immersed because I have something in the back of my head I think I want to do. And she said, what is that? You know, you have your teaching degree. I had already gotten a little job as a little teacher somewhere. I said, but there's something else I want to do, and I want to go just see how the vibe is. They sent me. I met Al Oliver in New York. There were around 40 of us on his trip, and we landed in Ghana. I knew nobody on the plane, which is the audaciousness of my background, or something was going on, or else I was truly nuts. I knew nobody on the plane. I was 20, going on 21, and I went on this plane by myself. My mother was having a breakdown in Brooklyn. Granny's praying. My relatives saying, we don't know what this is, but something is going on here, very unusual. And my uncles and the males of my family saved me. They told my mom to leave me alone. There was something about my personality that they liked. They said, the little audacious Gwen is really interesting. Leave her, let her go. And that's how, so I went to West Africa for 3 months. Ghana, went to, the slave castles, wandered around. I knew nobody else. And we all who were on the trips became very close. That was the beginning of my new life of people. All of us were talking the language, what we didn't understand. We went in, we began to study the language in Ghana because we didn't speak, of course, any of the African languages. We went to Ghana. We went to Togo. We went to Dahomey, which became Benin. We went to Nigeria. And we just stayed for 3 months, immersed in music, dance. We went out every night. I was there for the installment of the Asante Hene, who was the king who died in Ghana. And I wrote a huge poem about it and wrote a play. And the play became Juju Man.
Oh my God. Yes.
I also listened to music, and I met Fela. Everybody knows Fela. I sat at his compound for days at his foot with the rest of us listening to Fela talk, who was really wild, man. But his concepts about music and Africa were very fascinating. So we didn't just go to Africa as tourists. We actually went to the bush. We traveled all through Ibadan. We went to Ashogbo where the huge arts were. So I was being immersed in my culture on every level. It's like bombarded every day of the week for 3 months. That's 90 days of immersement in African culture. 90 days. We came back. We were not the same. I came back and formed the Harlem Children's Theater Company.
Oh my God.
As soon as my feet landed back in New York City, I said, what I want to do is form an ensemble of young people to show them what I have learned, to train them in the arts on such a level that is not imaginable, that they are going to become musically geniuses, dance geniuses, theatrical geniuses, and we're going to study the world culture, not only African culture, but European culture, Caribbean, and that's what I did.
Wow.
I was 21. I think you were 14. And what was fascinating about this, they thought that I was really older because I was so bossy.
Well, mature. Let's say that's. Let me just give you. My father was born in 1922. Strong black man. In fact, he was so rough, cavemen would come by and say, "Man, you rough." My mother was born in 1926. Strong black woman. This 21-year, at the time, I didn't know, you must have been convincing, because to make Sadie Fields and Milton Fields allow me to travel to Africa with you, I don't know what you could have possibly have said. So what was your conversations like with parents?
I promised the parents that I was going to protect their children, because, Black parents want to make sure their kids are safe, whether they're poor Black children or middle-class Black children. They want their children safe, and they want to believe that the leader has integrity, no vices, and it just happened I didn't have many. I didn't smoke or drink or nothing. I have no idea why, but I just did not. And so They wanted to make sure I was wholesome enough to secure their children. And I had 100 children in my company. That's how I met Vosa and Roger and all of the people. They were like, who is running around with 100 Black and Latino children? Who is a crazy lady? We used to do a play with 100 kids on stage. And I remember Michael Whitaker, who was in East Harlem, came out and said, are there 100? What is going on up in here? They were singing, dancing, acting in costumes.
Yes.
All of our plays were 2.5 hours long. I wrote all the plays.
That's
and then I had all the artists of New York were working with me, like Shirley Ralph was working with me, Lillian White. I would get them to come over because I moved to 42nd Street. And the only way I was able to move to 42nd Street because Vosa and Roger Furman said, we got your back.
Now, when you say move to 42nd,
I was in Harlem in the beginning. I was in a school.
That's right.
A public school.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember the public school.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
And I said, we need a space. So 42nd Street Redevelopment Corporation was developing 42nd Street, which is full of prostitutes and winos, if you remember the early history. And I said, I'm taking my company on 42nd Street, Midtown. And some people said, well, how can the Harlem Children's Theater Company move out of Harlem? That was a deep conversation I had with Roger Furman and Vosa. They were talking to me and Ellis. And I said, well, I'm moving to 42nd Street because of the exposure.
Now you're talking about Theater Row.
Theater Row. I'm going to Theater Row. And I had 2 floors, and I was with Intot Theater, which was a Latino theater on the bottom, and there was nothing in the buildings but raw space. We had no money. I think I had $6. We had no money, no materials, no mirrors. And I said, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but I'm doing this. And we had just finished doing The Liberation of Mother Goose, which was my
fantastic play. Fantastic.
It was touring. It was everywhere. It was in New York, Lincoln Center, Gene Frankel Theater. It was done at the Apollo Theater. The Apollo Theater came as a result of Ellis Hazel, but PBS got us the Apollo. I went over to Roger Furman and Vosa and said, I'm doing the Apollo for a month. And they just looked at me. They used to get quiet. Jamal would just get quiet. Like, okay, we don't know what Aduke is up to. We don't know who this really is. How are you going to do the Apollo? I said, I'm going to go up there and tell them I want the Apollo for a month. And there was this white guy who really owned it at the time. I think Jamal would remember this. And I went upstairs and said, listen, I have phenomenal team of people. I had fabulous artists working with me. Everybody was working with me. Ellis Hazen got me a grant, so I had money. And that's the key. So Ellis Hazen got me some money and Novella Nelson, and I was like paying people. So I could pay. So I could get Lillian White, Shirley Ralph, John Parks, everybody was working with me because I wasn't paying a lot of money, but at least I was paying money for the art. I always believe in paying for the art form. That's my philosophy. People need to be paid even if it's $100. So I did that. So I said, I'm going to the Apollo Theater, Vosa and Roger. You think I can pull this off? Because this guy puts a gun on the table. I mean, I have some real stories. He was wearing a gun, and the gun he puts on the table and says, are you going to be able to pull this off? I said, yes, sir. He said, how many shows do you do? I'm going to do 4 different plays, a different one every week. It was really interesting. He said, I want the box office. I said, you can't have the whole box office. I'm a kid. I said, you can't have the whole box office now. That's not fair. I'm being real.
Right.
We should have some of the box office, okay? Right. And so I'm talking to Roger. Roger says, Duque, it's dangerous up there. I said, I know, but he's at least got to give us some of the box office. So he writes this contract up, which they did not, of course, adhere to. It was baby, no attention. So I just was interested in getting in the Apollo, which he gave me for free. See, that was my thing. I want the space for free. I can get Reggie Life, all my people, Pat Cummings, my artist. Your sister was my music director. That's right. I had Mimi from one of the theaters down in Manhattan.
My mother, she did a lot of the costumes.
Yes, Mimi did the costumes. She was with the playwright who died. Oh, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But I had everybody pulling for me.
Yes.
I'm doing the Apollo. I had the brewery puppet troupe came in. Everybody was doing the Apollo with a Duque. Everybody. We did 4 different plays that I had written, and we did the Apollo, and we sold out. And Roger Furman came down 125th Street with a rose, and he said, Vosen, I want to congratulate your wild booty. Okay. Roger was great. He said, girl, you did it.
Duque, I've got to tell you, I noticed a thread through your story.
What's the thread?
The thread I'm noticing is most people have a dream and wait for it to manifest. It seems that you manifest your ideas and you make your dreams align
Yes,
to
I do.
it. It's like your dreams say, oh, well, that's what she wants to get done. Let's make it happen.
That's really something that I had. I don't know where that came from, but my thing was nothing is impossible.
Indeed.
I'm from a strong culture. I mean, once I went to Africa and I kept going back, I went every year. We have a culture that goes back thousands of years. So I'm in the year where the culture is not doing too good because something happened. And I had a thing which I wrote in Juju Man, my play, that everybody's been in slavery, so don't get hung up on it. I used to say to my college students, oh, come on, get over it. I know it was bad, it was 200 years, but you need to go back 1,000 years to see what was really going on so you can get over that. And I want you to be angry, but I also want you to go above that and do what you need to do because your ancestors 1,000 years ago are expecting you to do your job here on the earth realm. So please don't get hung up in that aspect of history that's probably not even written correctly. And we already know Harriet Tubman was running through the woods, and we know what was happening. So let us focus on who we really are and let's do what we have to do. So the Apollo was done. Apollo's done. And my thing is, where am I going next? And I got nominated for an Adoko Award, which is one of the most fabulous recognition of Black people in theater in New York. And I got nominated. And on the nominating roster, Jamal Joseph was Whitty King and all the big shot kings. I was there. A Duque, wait a second, and all the kings. Wow. And I was like, I am never getting this award. I said, there's no way. And I don't know what Roger and Volza did behind the scenes because I won the Adoko. And it was I'm sitting there real quiet and Vivian Robinson says, and the Adoko goes to a Duke Arimu, and I didn't even get up because I'm like, what? What just happened? And Woody came over to me and said, okay, girl. Woody is funny.
Wow.
Woody said, this is the deal Woody said to me when I first met him. I don't really need to produce you because the Duque, you know how to produce yourself. Woody said, I will always be your mentor and your supporter, but you really don't need me like you think you need me. That was an interesting comment he made for me. He said, you can always call Woody. You got my home number, my theater number. You know me. You can come sit with me. You got this. I want you to understand. You have this. So do what you know to do. You don't need to lean on me. You don't need to be crying the blues.
Right.
Follow your instincts.
Wonderful.
And I said, okay. So Woody said, so you won. He was funny. And I said, Woody, I didn't mean to win over you. And I really didn't. But, I didn't really mean it because I'm really nervous now. Because you got Woody, then you got Ed Bullins and Ernie McClintock. They're all there looking at me. And I'm saying, what just happened? That was the beginning of a lot of the collaborations in New York with the guys. I call it the men's group.
Right.
Men were like, oh, okay, so the girl is got some chops.
And you bring up a very good point because not only were you being challenged at the time of being a Black person, but then being a Black woman, that was another hurdle to contend with.
It was very interesting. And I've always come across, because I am like a feminine personality type. I like, clothes and fashion. I've always been like that. One of the things I say in all of my interviews is that the men of Black theater, that generation really gave me love. I don't have the story. I mean, a lot of people had story. I didn't have that story. I don't know. They didn't approach me unethically. They really did not. I didn't have none of that. Ed Bullins would say, okay, here's this wild child. Okay, what do you want? What's the wild child want here? I said, well, Ed Bullins, I'm doing a festival at Medgar Evers College, and I need you to fly from LA and be there with me. And he said, fine, okay. And then Joseph Walker, when I did the public theater, Joseph Walker built my whole set. Joseph Walker had me come to his house with him and Lilius and his wife, and he helped me understand that the play that I had written needed to be rewritten, because I believed from the very beginning that God was speaking to me. You know how we, as writers, well, I'm getting the muse in the middle of the night and I can't ever change a line. And Joseph Walker said, that is not possible, my love. Right. You're going into the public theater, get a grip. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Joseph was deep, and I was really nervous. I said, but he said, Aduke Arimu, you've written a prize-winning play. The Liberation of Mother Goose will go down in archives, which it did. Rewrite it. Right. And I did. I stayed at Joseph's Walker's house for 3 days, sleeping on the sofa. I'm out there, Lilius is there, everybody's there. And he said, this is the deal. If you sit down and rewrite The Liberation of Mother Goose to the extent that this piece is supposed to be written, which is the same piece I'm trying to take to television now, he said, you're going to be surprised at what is going to come out of you. You've already been to Africa many times. You've been traveling. There's other stuff in you that needs to be said on paper. Yes. He was right. He also made a deal with me, which is why I said the men's club were very gracious to me. Joseph Walker said, if you will rewrite the play, look at the music again, I'm going to build a set for you at the public theater, which he did, with Pat Cummings, who married Morgan Freeman. She painted the whole backdrop for me in the floor. Joseph built the set. And Lilius White will be able to perform, because he said, I don't lend Lilius out for nobody. Because Lilius was the star child of the demigods. So Lilius was in the play. She was the rabbit. Remember the rabbit that used to fly? Lilius danced across as the elusive rabbit that Alice is looking for. And Lilius came out. Then Ellis Hazlett, who was like a godfather, got me an audience with Gilbert Moses. Gilbert Moses was directing The Wiz on Broadway. And I went to see The Wiz because I got in, got a little ticket, and I went and I said, oh my God, this is great. But Gilbert Moses left The Wiz for whatever happened down there. Jeffrey Holder came in, and Ellis called me and said, Gilbert is available. This is a really interesting story. And I said, the Gilbert Moses. He said, I want you to show up backstage on Broadway and just be backstage. And when Gilbert Moses come out of the dressing room, you walk over to him and say, my name is Aduke Aramil Ellis Hayes sent me. That was my line. And I'm like, what do I wear? Ellis said, stop playing around. Ellis said, Aduke, stop playing games with me. You know what? You go backstage. And I said, standing in the middle of the street, Aduke Arimu, you ought to go backstage, wait for Gilbert Moses to come out of that dressing room with Dee Dee Bridgewater, and you walk up to him. And that's what I did. Gilbert Moses, my name is Aduke Arimu. I wrote a play, Liberation Mother Goose. I'm going to the public theater, and I want you to direct it.
Wow.
Gilbert, he was so cool. Gilbert said, really? I was like, yes. He said, well, who sent you? I said, Ellis Hayes sent me. Okay. He said, interesting. He said, and you are standing out here in the street. You didn't call my agent. Wait a second, you didn't call my agent. Just asking me. I said, yes, Gilbert Moses, please. He said, call me. So he gave me his home number. This is very, very interesting. And he called me and said, okay, meet me at my house, Dee Dee, because at the time he was with Dee Dee Bridgewater. And I went up there, because I'm bold. And I'm sitting with Dee Dee Bridge, these two mega stars. And I'm like the little black woman. I'm like, okay. And Dee Dee's like, how are you? I said, fine. You're wonderful in The Wiz. You know, I'm trying to do small talk. He says, I need you to direct The Liberation of Mother Goose at the public theater. You are the director. You are my director for that. He said, okay. It was amazing. I tell you, the answer, God really, he said, okay. And I just sat there. I was like, I was so scared to move. Amazing. I said, you're going to do? He said, yes. And then he said, on one condition, my daughter, he had a little kid that was 5. And he said, she's got to be in it. I said, I don't have no 5-year-olds in my play. Wait a second.
Wow.
He said, she got to be in the play. That's all Gilbert said. He went back in the kitchen.
Wow.
I said, well, I'll write a role for her. You remember the little girl that ran across the stage? She was a little kid that came out in the beginning and made an announcement in a cute little costume and said, welcome to the public theater. The liberation of Mother Goose is here. And she ran out and she did that for every show.
Wow. So listen, so you met the confines of the contract. There you go. That was wonderful. Listen, Duke, we only got like 9 minutes left, and you are a 3-day interview at least.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And you have just impacted the audience with so much wonderful vitality and wonderful stories of hope. Because what we try to do here at Various Fields, with hopefully let people see the possibilities of themselves through the people they see here. And you have given so much that I'm sure there are people that may be challenged by how much you've done, but know that you too can take the bull by the horns and you can do it. Now, from hearing this interview, some people might think that we've stopped, but you're still continuing your journey. What is it that you're doing now?
Well,
Just give me a couple minutes of that.
I wrote 12 plays for the Harlem Theater Company. Mm-hmm. And then I took off and went to Europe being a bohemian also. I don't know if you guys remember when I left town, and I took a year off and went to live in Europe to write and produce. I lived in Heidelberg, which was a very interesting experience. That's another interview, my European experience. I'm sure Jamal will pick that one up. It was fascinating how highly respected Black Americans are in Europe. And so I stayed there for a year and came back, and I closed the Harlem Theater Company. Why did I close it? The real estate became unbelievable on 42nd Street, and I decided to become an independent producer. And so as an independent producer without an actual brick and mortar, I could open an office and produce. And that's what I did. And I just kept going, 12 plays, 5 books. I did the whole world. I took you guys to Africa. I took you to Barbados, Jamaica. We went to the Bahamas. We went to Europe. We also did Guyana. We were touring every summer because I want to tell my guests that my students became as impossible as I was. Hayes Fields II was not innocent. Every summer they would look at me and say, Aduke, you're getting ready to get on an airplane and leaving us behind. I was like, I'm on vacation. They said, well, you can't. So what happened? Traditionally, I began to take the Harlem Theater Company with me on tour. So when I went to Jamaica, they came to Jamaica. And we performed in Jamaica. If I went to Barbados, they came to Barbados. They were insistent. And if they couldn't pay for it, we had to raise the money because a lot of the kids who went to Europe with me was free. And Charlie Rangel, in fact, gave us checks. We took 50 kids to Europe. And all over Europe, we were roaming around performing and visiting. But the community of New York City and Brooklyn were gracious to us, and they still are gracious to me. I was able to raise money pretty easily.
Fantastic.
The Kennedy Center, we did the Kennedy Center. Yes. Jackie Onassis and her family supported the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center I got for no cost. The Kennedy Center invited us in to do a command performance for the Kennedys, which was sold out Friday night. And the Saturday performance was public, which got sold out in 2 minutes flat. So a lot of the parents of the kids never saw their kids because they were standing outside the Kennedy Center trying to get in. We were sold out immediately. And Howard University partnered with me. So it was Howard University, the Kennedys, Duque, and the University of Maryland. There was a brother up there who came in. So I was I'm a Klan person. I'm going to go look for clans. Okay. So I put together the Klan of Power.
Wow.
You can't talk to the Kennedy Center alone. So I had a Klan of Power, and they gave us everything we wanted. Right. We didn't even use the union workers at the Kennedy Center because we had special lighting teams come in. Sesame Street was working with me because you remember we had all the puppets and Muppets.
We did the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
We did the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Listen,
it was very interesting.
And now you're in Atlanta, is that correct?
Yes.
You're in Atlanta and you're doing productions there as well. So listen, I want to leave the rest for the documentary because there's so much. And we haven't even get. In fact, not only did you create actors, but you created a family. Pamela Johnson is one of the people we love. Pamela, you out there? I don't know if she's still here, but she's one of our friends and family.
She was in Barbados. She performed in Barbados.
And these are people that...
All of my students did well.
That's right.
One of my students went to South Africa, became a very famous choreographer, Barry. All of my students took the energy, Deirdre Tate and the Tate family.
Right. Pamela's coming out there. Pamela, can you just give a shout out from where you are? Just say howdy. And
I'm loving it.
Come over here, girl.
We gotta get in the camera. Okay, she's gonna walk carefully and she's gonna get in the camera real quick.
I love you. She's one of my original students.
That's right. I don't know if we can see her face there. You may have to drop down real low there.
Come on, baby.
Yeah, there. All right, there you go. There goes
Pamela.
We love Pamela. Thank you for coming in here, Pamela Johnson. We went to travel together as kids, and so here's the thing. Now we're about, how much time we got left? We got about 2 minutes. Listen, we're about to close this episode, but I have to do something.
Yes.
For my son Lexington.
Yes, sir.
And my now I promise you no gotcha questions, but I gotta give you a hard hitting question.
What's the question?
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
All right. This is from Lexington Malcolm Fields, and it's been very popular on our program.
Okay.
Waffles or pancakes?
Which one do I eat?
Just answer the question.
Waffles.
I can't believe it. You answer properly. Somehow or another, my son believes that people are inherently good who eat waffles. I have not yet quite figured out what that thing is, but doggone
it's structural. Waffles is discipline. It's structural.
This is what you know. What and you're a waffle person too.
Yes, it's
Lexington. I'm going to figure this out one day and try to understand it because I really.
It's dignified. It's dignified.
Well, listen. Well, if waffles not dignified, I tell you what, you are dignified. You are royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy to have the wonderful...
I got to make one announcement.
Okay, real quick, go ahead.
I'm going to be at the International Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem doing a women's symposium. There are 12 phenomenal women I'm bringing together from all over the United States, and a couple are coming in from overseas. I'm talking about how we did it, women of legacy, who we cut through the cheese and broke the glass ceiling. We're going to talk about this for 2.5 hours. And you all need to join us at the Fed. We're going to be on 29th of July. They asked me to do this because we're going to talk about how we each did this journey as female producers, writers, directors in the United States of America. Some of the people did it overseas in the Caribbean. And I have one lady from Montserrat coming on.
All right.
We need to give the secrets out how we did this.
All right. Well, we're going to post all that at the bottom. We're in the comments there. We're going to put it over in the description. They all know the places. Come to variousfields.com. We'll have pictures and all that kind of stuff there. And we want to thank Aduke Aramu, all of our friends. Make some noise in here. Thank you for all. And be back here next week for a wonderful, exciting, another episode of Various Fields. Love you guys. I miss you.